Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of Truth in Video Games. We're going to start off with games that have more grounded truths revealed, we'll say. Truths involving government conspiracies, societal control, corruption, dark cabals, things of that nature. And we'll work our way to the crazier shit in subsequent episodes. We're starting off with Metal Gear Solid 2 specifically. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, Metal Gear Solid is a tactical espionage stealth game. It was very popular in its time, like many things of our culture. It's since been degraded, likely on purpose, like other channels have stated. And it's created by Hideo Kojima, written and directed by Hideo Kojima. And I bring this up specifically because this guy is very much like Elon Musk or a Bill Gates or a what's the guy who heads Facebook's name? Mark Zuckerberg. He's like obviously an evil minion for the forces of darkness, for lack of a better way of describing it. And I mean, the man's been consumed by ego. I find it hard to believe that he did come up with all this stuff. I mean, it's a very obvious case with the clips that I'll be showing you today that this is another case of truth coming through fiction, truth coming through art, predictive programming. And in particular, as I show you these clips, I want to really emphasize that this game was released in 2001, November of 2001. Keep that in mind while you're hearing these two clips. They're both conversations that I've done my best to edit and condense down so that it's just relevant to the comparison and with what we're discussing with truth, rather than delving too much into the video game's lore. And I don't want to waste anyone's time. They are still somewhat longer clips, but I do hope you watch through the whole thing to see what I'm talking about. You will be amazed at how uncannily accurate it is in predicting our situation 20 years later. So, to give some brief context for the first clip, a terrorist organization called Dead Cell has taken the president hostage during his inspection of an oil treatment facility off the coast of Manhattan. The facility is a facade for a secret government project, of course. It is an espionage video game. But for the purposes of this discussion, we won't go too much more into that beyond what the clips themselves show you. Our protagonist, Jack, is sent in covertly by the White House to save the president. I'm going to let the characters explain the situations themselves, but before I do want to point out that the President of the United States grabs Jack's crotch in the beginning of the scene to confirm his gender. Some people have suggested that this is predictive programming specifically for Trump and his presidency, especially since the characters describe a tumultuous election beforehand. It could also be a nod to the gender confusion madness of our current age. It can be a number of things, but I just felt like it is an elephant in the room that stands out. There's certainly something to it. There are no coincidences here, but what exactly is meant to signify, it's open to interpretation.
Are you all right, sir?
Is this some kind of sick joke? I thought you came to kill me.
What?
I'm prepared to face the consequences of my betrayal.
What are you... What the...
You're a man? Well, who are you?
Foxhound, sir.
Foxhound? I see. Now things are starting to make a little sense. Switch over to nano-communication so nobody can listen in.
Yes, sir. Do you read me, sir?
Yes.
Mr. President, it's my understanding that the terrorists have managed to input the code sequence necessary for launching a nuclear strike.
That's correct. I punched the sequence in myself.
You're working for them?
If you asked me 2 hours ago, my answer would have been yes. Right now, they're keeping me alive until my vital signs are reconfirmed.
They betrayed you?
I wouldn't quite put it that way. I wanted power. They sought destruction.
But why stoop to terrorism?
I wanted absolute power.
But you're the president. You have power.
No, I'm just a figurehead.
Huh?
I don't have any control. The real power is in the Patriots' hands.
The Patriots?
The truth behind this country. I'm not surprised you've never heard of them. Very few are aware of their existence, even among those with code word clearance.
Huh?
Politics, the military, the economy, they control it all. They even choose who becomes president. Putting it simply, the Patriots rule this country.
No.
Hard to believe, isn't it? But it's the truth. The space defense, income tax reduction, and national missile defense programs. Every policy that's been credited to me was actually done according to their instructions.
Space defense was initiated by Congress.
That's what the Patriots want the country to believe. It's all a show. Democracy is just a filler for textbooks. Think about it. Do you actually believe that public opinion influences the government?
No.
This country is shaped and controlled as the Patriots see fit. The people are shown what they want to believe. What you call government is actually a well-staged production aimed at satisfying the public.
Huh?
Don't look at me like that. I'm legally sane, you know.
It's not your sanity that worries me.
The Patriots. Even I don't know who the actual members are. Are they financial, political, or military leaders? No one knows who the Patriots really are. Even my instructions come from a cutout. All I've been told is that every key decision is made by a group of 12 men, known as the Wise Men's Committee.
Your office? The White House?
Merely puppets, pawns in a game. By pledging my loyalty, an insignificant son of a senator was awarded the presidency. Of course, that wasn't the only price I had to pay.
What do you mean?
Even if a pawn becomes a queen, it is still just a playing piece. I wanted to leave my own mark in history, but my ambitions were... You'll understand someday. I wished to be a member of the Patriots. I wanted to wield the power of a king instead of being an expendable pawn.
And that justifies acts of terrorism?
Yes. I'd intended to use the new Metal Gear as a bargaining chip.
Bargaining chip?
But I underestimated Solidus. He actually wants to challenge the Patriots, even if it means the destruction of the world.
What are you saying?
Whether you believe it or not, the balance of power rests in the hands of the Patriots. They regulate the country's various interests through controlled presentation, staging a drama that is palatable to the general masses. Can you imagine what would happen if they ceased to function? Picture a massive political vacuum, a space that every powermonger will try to fill for their own greedy ends. I'm talking about an unregulated power struggle, panic, civil war, chaos. Like it or not, the Patriots is an organization that must continue to exist.
So you changed your mind because you wanted to avoid global chaos.
Exactly. When I told Solidus that I wished to prevent disaster, he replied that pawns can never become players.
And who is this Solidus?
My predecessor, George Sears. That was the name the public came to know him by. I knew him by his code name, Solidus Snake. However, he fell out of grace with the organization 4 years ago. When acting on his own, he started an incident.
4 years ago. Shadow Moses.
Shortly thereafter, Solidus was removed from the presidential office.
I thought he resigned.
That's the story given to the general public. Following his resignation, the Patriots selected me, their new pawn for the presidency.
But that would mean that the presidential race was...
That was quite a show, wasn't it? It was a well-scripted drama staged by the Patriots for the benefit of the public. Even the Democrats and Republicans were dancing to the Patriots' tune. Everything went according to plan, but for one exception. Following his resignation, Solidus' health was scheduled to fail him, bringing about his untimely death.
Capped?
Correct. But before the Patriots could execute their plot, Solidus went underground with the help of Ocelot. By stealing the Patriots' most valued project, he would be able to place them in a very uncomfortable position. It's the only chance he has for survival. Once he has the new Metal Gear, he'll declare war against the Patriots.
Where's the new Metal Gear?
Right here.
What?
You're standing in it. To be more precise, this entire big shell facility is the new Metal Gear.
What'd you say?
No, I'm quite serious. The upper structure that you've seen is camouflage, designed to represent an offshore cleanup facility. Arsenal Gear. That's the code name for the new Metal Gear. Arsenal Gear has full access to the military's tactical network, giving it the ability to exercise absolute control over our nation's armed forces, not to mention our nuclear armament. In short, Arsenal was created to be the core of our country.
What kind of idiotic weapon?
Weapon? No. You're not seeing the full picture. Arsenal Gear is more than just a military tool. It is a means to preserve the world as it is. It will establish a new form of control. The Patriots will use it to keep their place as the country's true rulers. Right now, they feel pressured and threatened.
By what?
They fear an overabundance of digital information. The world will drown in the coming flood of information, and they along with it. The Arsenal plans include a system to digitally manage the flow of information, making it possible to shape the truth for their own purposes. In short, the Arsenal system is the key to their supremacy. Once operational, it will be a completely new form of power for the Patriots to wield. I had hoped to seize the project from them, so that I would be in a strong bargaining position.
Bargain for what?
I'd hoped to trade my way into their ranks, but Solidus preferred rebellion. Listen, there isn't much time. The football served as the key for activating Arsenal Gear. I've already input the necessary code sequence. It won't be long before GW begins to establish connections with other external systems, and Arsenal Gear becomes fully operational. Stop them before that happens. That is your role.
Role?
It's eerie just how accurate that was to today's times, wasn't it? Despite the game being made 20 years ago. The president reveals not only that he is a total puppet, but that he has no idea who the real puppet masters are. As we'll get to with the next clip, even this story that he's been fed about this secret cabal of 12 men and no one knows who they are is also total BS. He has no idea, no understanding truly. He's just a minion being used. We'll never discover what our protagonist Jack ultimately does, that this Patriot group running the world isn't even human. And this fictional superweapon they were talking about, Arsenal Gear, its purpose to manage digital information because they fear the overflow of digital information, that is exactly what we see today. But we see it through major corporations like Facebook and Twitter, these social media platforms. They don't even need a mega secret weapon. They just do it out in the open, and the brainwashed masses accept it. Before we go into the next clip, a few other things from what we just saw. How, again, relating to predictive programming potentially with Trump, how they attribute this president to having a special space defense program, apparently. It's hilarious how he says even the Democrats and Republicans fall for it. Like, even they fall for it every time. But they go into the execution of presidents that don't go along with the game plan and play ball. They go into how this AI is supposed to get full access to the country's infrastructure, which, I mean, we can broaden that to the whole world these days, right? There's no illusion that this cabal is not in the real world, in our reality, is not in control of everything, not just America here. Okay, so first off, this next clip is actually after our hero destroys the super weapon and supposedly saves the day. He gets a call from the evil cabal, the Illuminati, Satan, the dark side, whatever label you want to give to the inhuman monstrosity that really rules over all of us, their character in the video game. So they give first off, they give a ridiculous explanation for their origins, and it reminds me greatly of the Joker and the Dark Knight films. You want to know how I got these scars? Like, it's a total BS explanation just meant to confuse even more. But listen to just how they consider human beings, what they consider their own purpose in all of this, and you'll see that this is basically just the cabal speaking, or, you know, the forces of darkness, the Satan, the reality, the system, whatever label you want to give it. This is that basically speaking directly to us, more or less. So take a listen, and I would love to hear what you guys think about all this in the comments. Enjoy.
Raiden, are you receiving? We're still here.
How's that possible? The AI was destroyed.
Only GW.
Who are you?
To begin with, we're not what you'd call human. Over the past 200 years, a kind of consciousness formed layer by layer in the crucible of the White House. It's not unlike the way life started in the oceans 4 billion years ago. The White House was our primordial soup, a base of evolution. We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often. How can anyone hope to eliminate us? As long as this nation exists, so will we.
Cut the crap! If you're immortal, why would you take away individual freedoms and censor the net?
Jack, don't be silly.
Don't you know that our plans have your interests, not ours, in mind?
What?
Jack, listen carefully, like a good boy.
The mapping of the human genome was completed early this century. As a result, the evolutionary log of the human race lay open to us.
We started with genetic engineering, and in the end, we succeeded in digitizing life itself.
But there are things not covered by genetic information.
What do you mean?
Human memories, ideas, culture, history.
Genes don't contain any record of human history.
Is it something that should not be passed on? Should that information be left at the mercy of nature?
We've always kept records of our lives, through words, pictures, symbols, from tablets to books.
But not all the information was inherited by later generations. A small percentage of the whole was selected and processed, then passed on. Not unlike genes, really.
That's what history is, Jack.
But in the current digitized world, trivial information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness, never fading, always accessible.
Rumors about petty issues, misinterpretations, slander.
All this junk data, preserved in an unfiltered state, growing at an alarming rate.
It will only slow down social progress, reduce the rate of evolution.
Raiden, you seem to think that our plan is one of censorship.
Are you telling me it's not?
You're being silly. What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
Create context?
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths. Just look at the strange juxtapositions of morality around you.
Billions spent on new weapons in order to humanely murder other humans.
Rights of criminals are given more respect than the privacy of their victims.
Although there are people suffering in poverty, huge donations are made to protect endangered species. Everyone grows up being told the same thing.
Be nice to other people.
But beat out the competition.
You're special. Believe in yourself and you will succeed.
But it's obvious from the start that only a few can succeed.
You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt. The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper.
We're trying to stop that from happening.
It's our responsibility as rulers. Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out to stimulate the evolution of the species.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
That's what it means to create context.
I'll decide for myself what to believe and what to pass on.
But is that even your own idea?
Or something Snake told you.
That's the proof of your incompetence right there. You lack the qualifications to exercise free will.
That's not true. I have the right.
Does something like a self exist inside of you?
That which you call self serves as nothing more than a mask to cover your own being.
In this era of ready-made truths, self is just something used to preserve those positive emotions that you occasionally feel.
Another possibility is that self is a concept you conveniently borrowed under the logic that would endow you with some sense of strength.
That's crap!
Is it? Would you prefer that someone else tell you? All right then. Explain it to him.
Jack, you're simply the best, and you got there all by yourself.
Oh, what happened? Do you feel lost? Why not try a bit of soul searching?
Don't think you'll find anything, though.
Ironic that although self is something that you yourself fashioned, every time something goes wrong, you turn around and place the blame on something else.
It's not my fault. It's not your fault.
In denial, you simply resort to looking for another, more convenient truth in order to make yourself feel better.
Leaving behind in an instant the so-called truth you once embraced.
Should someone like that be able to decide what is truth?
Should someone like you even have the right to decide?
You've done nothing but abuse your freedom.
You don't deserve to be free.
We're not the ones smothering the world. You are.
The individual is supposed to be weak, but far from powerless. A single person has the potential to ruin the world.
And the age of digitized communication has given even more power to the individual. Too much power for an immature species.
Building a legacy involves figuring out what is wanted and what needs to be done for that goal. All this you used to struggle with. Now we think for you.
We are your guardians, after all.
You want to control human thought? Human behavior?
Of course. Anything can be quantified nowadays. That's what this exercise was designed to prove.
You fell in love with me just as you were meant to, after all. Isn't that right, Jack?
The S3 is a system for controlling human will and consciousness. It is a method, a protocol that created a circumstance that made you what you are. What you experienced was the final test of its effectiveness.
That's crazy.
You heard what President Johnson said.
The Arsenal's GW system is the key to their supremacy.
The objective of this exercise was to establish such a method. Raiden, there are also reasons behind your selection. Solidus raised plenty of other child soldiers. Do you know why we chose you over them? It was because you were the only one who refused to acknowledge the past. All the others remember what they were and pay for it daily.
But you turn your back on everything you don't like. You do whatever you like, see only the things you like, and for yourself alone.
Yes, Rose can attest to that.
You refused to see me for what I was. I lied to you, but I wanted to be caught. You pretended to be understanding, to be a gentleman. You never made a conscious attempt to reach out to me. The only time you did was when I gave you no choice but to do so.
I was just trying not to.
What? Trying not to hurt me? Dear, the one you were trying not to hurt was yourself. Avoiding the truth under the guise of kindness is all that you did. It occurred to you to do nothing but look out for yourself. Even if you claim that it was for my sake, that feeling was nowhere to be seen. In the end, everything was for your sake. I was never part of the picture.
Exactly right. So you see, you're a perfect representative of the masses we need to protect. This is why we chose you. You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success.
Didn't I tell you that GW was still incomplete? But not anymore, thanks to you.
Your persona, experiences, triumphs, and defeats are nothing but byproducts. The real objective was ensuring that we could generate and manipulate them. It's taken a lot of time and money, but it was well worth it considering the results. I think that's enough talk. It's time for the final exercise. Raiden, take Solidus down.
Think again. I'm through doing what I'm told.
Oh, really? Aren't you forgetting something?
If you die, my child dies.
The termination of vital signals from your nanomachines means the death of Olga's child. Not to mention the death of Rose. She's wired the same way.
Rose, does she actually exist?
Of course I do, Jack. You have to believe me.
Damn!
It will be a fight to the death.
Solidus at least wants you dead.
We will collect the necessary data from this last fight. Then we'll consider the exercise closed. So, Jack the Ripper, will it be Solidus, the Patriot's creation, or you, Solidus's creation? Our beloved monsters, enjoy yourselves.